Welcome. My name is Rick.
Hi, I'm Maria.
And we are so excited to be here at this time. And we were invited by CWL and our friends in Asia. And we are very honored and grateful to be able to spend this time with you. And so...
In the spirit of wellness.
In the spirit of wellness,
and
yes.
And concern about everybody in the world right now. We're all in a place where we could use a little tangling. Thanks to Created with Love, we're going to be able to share some with you.
Exactly. So we're going to jump right into it and start with our materials. So we have a Phi tile. We're going to use our Marcus operandus here. And we are going to use a Micron 01. Mm-hmm. We are going to use a Brown 05. And we're going to use a Jelly Roll 08. And our lovely pencil, a tortillon, and whichever color of the, see, this is the moonlight, right? Whichever color moonlight you have, that's what we're going to use.
Okay.
Okay?
And the white General's chalk pencil.
And the white General's chalk pencil.
Maybe.
But have it with you and all of the other tools. So we're giving you these to let you know what we're using, and you may or may not use each one of these. You may not have each one of these. So.
Right. Whatever you have, it's going to be wonderful.
The first thing we're going to do is we're going to follow the 8 steps, right?
Yeah.
So first is gratitude. And gratitude for this beautiful paper. Gratitude for the time that we're able to spend with each other.
Our friendships, our
family. And just taking time to be grateful for this time and the materials that we have and what we're going to create. Because this is something about creating, and what's going to come onto your paper is going to be something totally different than we put on our paper. Even if we tried to do it ourselves again, we wouldn't be able to, right?
Right.
So I'm using the Marcus operandus, which is how we divide things up into 5 proportions. And I think that probably you've heard about that. And I'm going to start with going directly to a string. We're going to assume that we've got the corners already on our tile. We're going to use the dots or the corners as our dots. And I'm going to set my gray tile. I'm going to use the gray Phi tile. And I'm going to mark where it says B and C. And then I'm going to turn my tile and mark where it says B just lightly and C. And then I'm going to do the same thing. You can see this fits right in here. Again with B and C. And then on the other side with B and C. And now, I guess you could say these are sort of dots, right?
They're sort of dots,
They're
right?
Sort of dots. I'm going to set this aside and get another tile. And I'm going to use this as a guide. I'm not going to really just trace along and let the pencil go. I'm going to try something a little bit different. And I'm just going to use it as a guide a little bit away. And I'm going to target from this dot to this dot. Just very appreciatively and gently connect those dots. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this set. And if you want to trace along here, that's fine. But I like the hand-drawn aspect. And I'm doing it a little wavy here. So where this came here, we're going to do the same thing again. From the outer dots, I'm going to connect them, just using that as a guide. And you may decide you don't even need that piece of paper. Or you may decide that you want to trace along it. So now we've got this wonderful hollabaugh situation setting up. And I am going to draw underneath this and start my line here. And we're going to continue that same approach all the way around. Again, hollabaugh, we're going to go underneath. And I'm doing it a little bit darker so that you can see it. You can do it just lightly enough so you can see it. But either way, these are going to disappear. And now when we get to this pair, they're both going to go behind, just like in a hollabaugh fashion.
It's a great string.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're going to enjoy how these all go together. And now we're going to turn this over to Maria, and she's going to do our first tangle together.
Okay, we have to switch seats.
Okay?
So I'm going to start with the brown micron, the 05 brown micron. And we're going to do a tangle called Gorgeous. This particular tangle, we're going to start by drawing an arc from this corner over here to about halfway around. So we're going to do an arc like that. And we're going to be working off of this arc here, and we're going to continually go to the same ends. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger towards the middle here. You can see. And inside there, I'm going to fill it in. This 05 makes that happen pretty quickly. Taking your time to really appreciate the pens and the paper. I'm always adding love to my lines. Sometimes you don't get it exactly the way you want the first time. You can kind of sculpt them. My next line is going to go from this point, and we're going to aura this line, but we're going to come to that same end. And we're going to do that twice. Taking our time. This is the rhythm that we're going to keep going with. So we have our two auras, but they're tethered on each end. Now I'm going to create this darker arc once more, and by starting out, take off and land, and then we're going to go off the line, come back, and then we're going to fill that in.
And what we're showing you, what Maria is showing you, is a starting point. Our goal is not that yours look exactly like this, but our goal is that you will take some inspiration from this, and then just following the steps, you'll see how yours appears.
Okay, we're going to do that another time. 2 auras. Now we have, this is a great start, but we're going to do something a little more interesting. We're going to start, you can see this is where we started, here to here, this corner to here. We're going to start from this corner and go over to here, almost the same thing. So our arc is going to go, and then in a hollowbar fashion, we're going to go to this end over here.
And you'll notice that Maria is using the natural arc of her hand, so it's almost like the heel of her hand is the pivot point.
It never moves. It's always in the same spot.
So rotating your tile under your hand.
Again, we're going to put another aura. And then create that little bit of a moon shape. Fill it in. And they don't have to always be exactly the same size. It's not mandatory, but similar.
Beautiful.
We're going to start at the point again with our aura, going behind and ending at the tip, at the point. Second line.
This is very fun because you don't necessarily know the direction that this is going. So you're just trusting that each stroke along the way, put all of your focus into that as beautiful and as tethered at each end and as oared as it fits, and just trusting this process.
Again, we're going to do that thickening portion. If you miss your spacing and you have 2 lines in there instead of 1 line or whatever, it doesn't matter. You'll never be able to see it. It's a gourd, and gourds are so erratic, and I'm sure they have funny kind of lines in them too. Nobody's counting them. And from the point, we're going to aura, hollowbar to the other side. One more. Thickening.
I can imagine everybody following along and tangling together with us. And even though we're sitting here alone in the studio, it feels like we're doing something as a collaboration together. It's a really good feeling.
So now we're going to go back to the first set, and we're going to come this way towards us, and we're going to be going behind the piece that we just put down. So we're going to start at this point, aura, and come to the other point. I'm going to do that twice. You can see what's happening here. It's almost like a porpoise diving through the wave, right?
Well, it reminds me of the Tangle X a little bit, where we go back and forth.
Yep. So I'm going to thicken this line, thicken it on this side. Take your time. You want to be sort of precise here. Again, 2 auras. So I'm just continuing to add these beautiful lines. I'm going to put one more line here, aura. And then we're going to switch over to the other. So we want to, you don't want to go on this side because this is a difficult line to create. This is a harder line for your hand, whereas your hand automatically moves in this direction. So we're going to go to this side and going to keep adding our lines. You can see I'm on my second one here. So then I'm going to add a thickening line. And 2 auras.
And you can decide when and whenever you want to go back and forth with these interweaving elements. So this is a fun, impossible gourd, right?
Right. This is an interesting lesson in being inspired by something that you see, but then doing something totally different with it that the gourd, I'm sure, did not expect.
And isn't that the beauty of what we're doing here, is to create something that even you wouldn't expect? So this is the whole idea of imagination and creativity, that by its definition, you're creating something new. And to do that from an inspired place, not from a worried place, but just really focusing on that next line and what would be possible, what would be beautiful, and do that and then reevaluate.
So I'm going to keep doing this until I can't do any more from this angle here. And everybody's is going to be a little bit different because the width of the lines are going to be different, which is wonderful. We'll all have something different to look at. But we're going to stop when I get to here. I'm going to stop. One more here.
You always say that.
One more. I might as well go to the corner.
Right.
How cool is this, right?
Right.
This is getting very cool.
The coming at 2 different angles is really nice.
The next few here we're gonna bring a new arc over. Again, this arc, you want it to go with the way your hand moves, which is this way.
The other way.
This way. Okay, so we're going to move from this dot over to here. Start again. 2 lines. Thickening. These don't take as long. I like to vary these thickened parts a little bit, not too exact.
Yeah, it makes it a more natural feel when that's done.
Right. So we're going to work all the way to the corner. And this point here, we want to go from that point to this point. Or wherever your pen leads
Right.
you. At this point, it's going to be beautiful no matter what you do. We're just going to fill this whole area.
So we're using that same approach to just fill this center diamond with these lovely interweaving curved shapes.
And you can see I'm using my left hand to move my tile around. And actually, it's almost like it's driving the car here. It's sort of telling me where to go. You see it, Rick?
Mm-hmm. And that is what we're looking to inspire in you, is taking the cue from your own creation, that as that inspiration comes, as that creativity drives your pen, that you then watch that and take inspiration from that stroke to what's the next stroke going to be, what's the next step going to be. And it's a really good reminder that no matter what's going on, you focus on the stroke at hand and do that the most elegant, beautiful way that you can do it. And then the next stroke will take care of itself.
You can see that you can go in and sculpt your the fat strokes here. Okay. These initial strokes that we did, these are the first ones. I'm going to go in here and watch carefully. I'm going to continue this stroke in here and then fill it in. And you can see it's weaving in there. And again, with this bold stroke, the fine
and she's
line.
Going up to that aurid place, so the dark still has that nice separation from that aura.
Fun stuff. There's all kinds of things that you can do in here, and one of them is even if you take one of these bold marks and just make a line that says, oh, it got a little bit out of control here.
It got loose. Maria, that's stunning.
You like that?
I love that. It's awesome. Yeah.
Wait till you see it when it's shaded. Right?
Oh, I know. It's going to be great. Okay, so
it's going to be gorgeous.
It's going to be gorgeous. I am going to use my Moonlight pen for the next step. But I love this this string because it's very structural, and everything that we're putting in it is very rounded and organic. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to use my moonlight to redefine this section. So let's find the first section that we did here, and I'm going to restate those lines. Right up to Maria's gorgeousness.
I set you up for this, Rick.
Right? And these moonlight pens, as with all of the jelly roll pens or gel type pens, really invite a very gentle, gentle touch. So the lighter you do it, the easier it flows. Now I'm going to aura that sort of almost as close as I can come. And I love the idea that when you do an aura like this, you're creating two things at the same time. You're creating the line, and you're creating the space between the line and the line next to it. So we're going to do this on each one. So cap back on pen. And I'm going to pick up my brown, and I am going to do a tangle that was inspired by our visit to
Taiwan, wasn't it?
Right, it was Taiwan. It was before we did our Zen again in Taiwan. We created a pattern, a tangle that we call Hollis, and it was inspired by a pattern that we see we first saw it in pottery. Okay, with our brown pen, you can just watch this first stroke here. I'm going to go, just start from the end, make a curve, and bring it around, and then I'm going to curve back on itself on the inside. Okay? And then I'm going to use the principle of takeoff and land. I'm going to take off from this side, and I'm going to go the other direction. I'm going to come around, and when it feels right, I'm going to loop back around, auraing all the way, and just bringing it all the way back down like that. And we're just going to do this over and over and over again. So again, I'm going to take off from the top of the last one and come up and come around. And when it feels right, I'm going to bring it all the way back down. Move your tile if you want. And this is just going to come down and then go behind that one. And the same thing over and over again. And like here, I'm going off the page, but I'm going to pretend, okay, come back down. And you'll get a really good feel for this. So you can see the direction we're going to go with this. And you can make these as long as you want, as curvy as you want. You're going to come up with your own style for this. All right. So we've got that basic structure down, and let's go back to that lovely green pen.
Or whatever color they have.
Or whatever color you're working with. And I'm going to go in And this is something we came up with. I think Maria came up with this in Taiwan, in Taipei, was we're going to add a little crescent moon shape in there and then aura it.
We call them moon pies.
Moon pies. Little crescent moon shape.
I think pie was like the shape of a piece of apple pie, right, or pizza pie, or like a pizza shape.
Like cutting out a cake.
Yep.
So now I'm going to pick up first I'll cap that, and I'm going to get my white jelly roll. And I'm going to do a couple things. One is I'm going to just put an aura of dots. And this is one of the reasons that we love the mid-tone paper here. And it's a subtle effect. But the gray paper is just enough contrast so that you can see it, that you couldn't see it on the white paper. Okay, and then just for a little contrast, I like to take advantage of this mid-tone paper, and I am going to go back into each one of these shapes and just fill in the center with the white. Just sort of following that same thing, same shape.
A subtle movement on the gray paper.
You know, and people might not notice it, but there's just a little bit of, like Maria said, subtle addition there. So just enjoy this lovely process of knowing that you know what the next stroke is going to be, and you can take comfort in that and just put one stroke down after the other. And when we're done, this is coming together pretty nice.
Looks neat.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to send this back over to Maria for the next step.
I'm going to grab my black 01 micron, and we're going to add some details in the gorgeous, just adding some drama. And what I like to do is wherever the bold lines go under, so you can see where these lines go under that first one, I'm going to add a little bit of black. You can focus in on this on your...
Yep.
Like they're going under there. It's like a shading, but it adds more drama even. I'm going to do that on both sides here.
I like the transition from one color to the other.
And you should want to use a light touch on the strokes. I think we called this in thatching. See any more?
You'll see them later.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay, so I have the black pen in my hand, the oak one, and I'm going to start the tangle that we're going to do around the edges and the corners. And this is really simple, so you don't have to think about this too hard. We gave you some focal tangles here where you have to really think about what you're doing. But this is going to be very simple and very meditative. We're going to start by putting down a few orbs about the size of the tip of your pen, this size, about that size. You can see if I made a mark. And you don't have to have them in the same places. That would, some of them could be going off the edge. Not too close to each other. Now, around each of these, I'm going to start putting a series of orbs that are just a little bit smaller, nestling them around each one. So it looks like a flower, but it won't look like a flower when we're done. We're going to do that on each one.
I like that little extra touch of how you fill in the interstices where there's a little gap between the orbs there.
Right. My natural instinct is to do that.
And as you're doing these orbs, you may become aware of, are you doing it in a clockwise direction? Are you doing it in a counterclockwise direction? Are you doing it in a combination of clockwise and counterclockwise? And whatever that is, you might make a deliberate choice to try doing it in a different direction and see how that feels. How does it look differently?
Okay, so our next step is to go around all of these flower-shaped pieces, but with a smaller, again, orb that sort of fits right in between the ones that are there.
This is a fun process, and I'm just going to go back in with even smaller orbs.
Tiny, tiny little ones.
And just go and fill up all of the spaces that remain. And it's starting to have this very organic structure. Go right up to the line. This is a fun process, and it also is an example of a great story that we heard one time. And this teacher had an example, was doing a demonstration in the class, and he had a large glass jar, and he had some large rocks, and he filled the jar up with these large rocks, and then he asked the class, "Is the jar full?" And the class said yes. Well, then he got some smaller rocks and filled in around the big rocks and asked the class, "Well, is it full now?" And they said, "Yeah, but with a little less certainty." And then he got some sand and filled in around the rocks. And he asked the class, "Well, is it full now?" And they said, "Well, yeah, it's full now." And then he got some water, and he poured some water into the jar. And so now he asked the class, "So what is the moral of this story?" And almost everybody in the class said, "There's always room for more." And he said, "No, the moral of the story is put the big rocks in first. Because if you want to get the big rocks in, you need to put them in first, because everything else will fit around it." Because certainly if he had filled it up with sand, there wouldn't have been any room for even one rock. So think of what is the most important focus, what is the most important in your life, in where you want to invest, in what you want, meaning invest energetically. What do you want more of? So we have a saying that whatever plant you water, that's the one that grows. So we prefer, in the midst of whatever is happening, to focus on gratitude, to focus on what we want more of, and really put our energetic attention into that. And that's why we talk about the idea of creatively responding to a situation instead of reflexively reacting to something. Because you have such a ability to create something that never existed. And sometimes if people give you a choice, well, they may not have seen all of the other options that are available, and it could be that you're the only one that can see those options. And I think that's one of the beauties of the Zentangle method, is you find people that didn't trust their ability to create, all of a sudden creating things that are so beautiful that they never believed they could do it. And so then that transfers to other things. Well, if I could do that on that small piece of paper, maybe I can do something in my home or in my work or in my relationships.
Well, you definitely wouldn't have gotten the big orbs in if you'd put it in the small orbs first.
Right?
Right?
So that's pretty awesome. I think we've got most of our ink down, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Do you want to do some shading while you're sitting there?
Okay. I'll do some shading on the hollis, and then you can come back and, right? So the hollis is going to be, I'm going to drop some graphite in these little corners here. Again, it's very subtle. It's where the little moon pies are, just in that space, because then I'm going to come back with the tortillon and just pull it out just a little bit. So it gives that sense of going under. And I'm just going to do that on each one. So once we've got all of that done, I want to go back in and now really start to use the magic of the graphite here. And I'm going to look where anything went underneath and go with the point of my pencil right up to that edge and really lay some graphite down pretty heavy. And then invite it into the paper with some circular motion, and then move away from that edge, keeping that circular motion for a little ways. Isn't that amazing? Just that little bit. And let's do that on all of the places here. Right? That's looking
Beautiful.
Nice.
Like
Okay.
folded ribbons.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to invite Maria back
Okay.
to shade the next part.
I'm going into the middle here, our gorgeous, and again where the sections go under, I'm going to add some graphite, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with it so that you can run in your direction, because everybody's is going to be a little bit different. You can see how that just picks up and sends this other section underneath. So anytime a section of gorgeous goes under, you're going to bring that section here above. Now I'm going to go around the perimeter because I want this to kind of tuck in, bringing it out, the tortilla, softening it. So it makes it look like this gorgeous is going behind, underneath the ribbon. There was one little detail here I was going to show you, and where this section here comes underneath, we're going to add just a little bit of shading here to pop that over it. Mm-hmm. You can see this band right here. See how right here, we're going to add that, soften it, and you can see how this section goes over that. There was a lot of detail here, and you could play with this for a long time. And then just one more little thing, this piece that I have going over, I just want a little bit of a shadow. Now with the tipple, this is what this is called, with the little orbs. I'm going to add graphite wherever there's tiny bubbles. And perhaps around the edges. And with the all magic tortillon, soften that. What do you think?
Beautiful.
Need any more?
Needs a chop.
Needs a chop. Okay, I'm going to put mine. Put mine over here.
I'm going to put mine over here. And then we'll sign the back.
Awesome. Awesome.
Right.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
It's been wonderful.
So, yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed this time.
Oh, and I wanted to show you my jacket.
Oh,
I don't know if you can see it here.
yeah.
This was an old jacket that I had that I revived by adding some really cool tangles, and it covered some spots that, God knows, just from age, you know, and isn't it cool? I love wearing this jacket.
So here we go. It was a wonderful, wonderful time with everybody, and we look forward to seeing the mosaics with whatever you guys created, because I know you're working on a lot of other tiles, and we've seen some sneak previews of the strings.
Don't tell them. Don't tell them.
And yeah, and it's beautiful. So
we can't wait to see this come together.
So again, thank you, all gratitude, and this. As you finish, you know, hold the tile out at arm's length, turn it this way and that, appreciate it at a different perspective.
Admire your work.
Yes.
Nobody ever tells you to do that. Admire your work. Make it feel good. Make it, you know, only look at the good parts. Let the other parts fall away.
So have a wonderful time.
Thanks for having us. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.